Greetings collectors and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video and welcome to episode 231 of our Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave your question in the comment section of this video. And once again, as I mentioned on my video that I put out the other day of my pickups from Orlando, Florida, I do apologise that our Bossk Bounty has been missing for the past 2 weeks, but as I've mentioned, I was on holiday in Orlando, Florida, so I wasn't able to put out those videos. But we are back, we are in full swing, and we've got a packed out episode this week with loads of great questions, and hopefully I can provide some decent answers for you. So, with all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy the video, hit the like button down below, subscribe if you're new, and this being episode 231 this week is brought to you by VC 231, which is the Stormtrooper. That's the reissue, and I thought I'd have that one in the video today because I think it's a good figure to celebrate the definitive OT Stormtrooper on the Star Wars card. Great release and fantastic to have in the line, so it's nice to celebrate that figure. I'd also like to shout out and thank my latest channel member, which is Rhino AZ22. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. Sorry if I've messed that up, buddy, but thank you for becoming a channel member. And with all that being said, let's get on to the first question. Jeff Weiss, aka The King, says, greetings my friend, it's been a while, hope all is well. Question for next week, would you like to see an updated version of the Imperial shuttle in the vintage collection? Apologise if you've been asked, I've been out of the loop for a while. Indeed you have, Jeff. I do hope you and your family are well. I have a lot to thank you for. Some of the Cantina aliens that are super rare these days, you actually helped me out with a couple of years ago, so thank you so much for that. In terms of your question, yes, most definitely I would love an Imperial shuttle to be in the vintage collection, an updated version, a more in-scale version, one that you can fit more than one figure in the cockpit or two figures in the cockpit. And essentially I feel that that would be a HasLab project, so not to push more OT items within the HasLab realm, because I know there's other things that need doing. That is most certainly something that I feel would be on top of a lot of people's lists, and it would be a welcome update, I feel. Ryan Maldonado says, hey BB, question for next week, do you think we will get a Stormtrooper with the new articulation like on the Mandalorians, or do you think we will get the Stranger from the Acolyte? It seems like Hasbro is prejudiced towards giving us villains, and do you think we'll ever see any more solo card backs like Tobias Beckett and Rio? Thanks for all you've done, hope you had a good holiday in the States. So the last part of your question there, in terms of solo figures, to me, I feel that Hasbro have got so much more to do, and unless those characters appear in something else, I feel it'll be a very long time, maybe an anniversary, before we see any more of those solo characters, unfortunately, because I did enjoy Solo a lot. They do have a prejudice against villains, or they have done in the past. That is definitely a thing. I've done a video before on villains in TVC and the missing ones and things like that. I do feel like they have rectified that ever so slightly in the last couple of years. Hopefully we will get the Stranger, because I think that's probably the most wanted character from the Acolyte series. And in terms of a new Stormtrooper, as I've just mentioned, this episode is sponsored, if you like, by VC 231, the Stormtrooper. And an amazing figure it is. It does miss the barbell hips. That is the only thing that really is missing from that figure now. And as they've updated other figures in the past, I'm sure one day they'll get round to doing that. I don't really think it's like an urgent thing right now. We've literally just had this VC 231 Stormtrooper reissued, and in the main, it's a very, very good figure. But, you know, like anything, they do like to update things, and I'm sure one day they'll get round to it. Patreon supporter Gary Moore says, long-time viewer, first-time caller. BS, just wanted to use that line. Question for next week, are the days of big-time reveals and exclusives for Comic Cons things of future past? 2 days to SDCC and nothing revealed yet for TVC. Yesteryear we had the Lost Line box set and the Death Star set. I'd like to go back to the future. Yeah, it does seem like that those big exclusives are a thing of the past, unfortunately. I think the best thing that we could hope for now is maybe like one of those special action figure 3-packs. I mean, I'd quite happily take one of those right now. We got nothing for San Diego Comic Con, which in my opinion is a huge crime considering what the Black Series got. I am pretty sure that we are due an exclusive this year, which I now believe will be part of the HasCon convention, or whatever you want to call it, PulseCon, whatever they want to call it. I'm pretty sure we will get a TVC exclusive for that, but will it be on the grand scale of, you know, the Lost Line box set with the Carbonite, Jar Jar Binks and the Revenge Death Star pack? I very much doubt it, my friend, but you know, you never know. One day we might get back to that, and it would be awesome if we could. Wolf of Dias says, hey boss, question for next week. There is speculation that the upcoming Deluxe Cobb Vanth has removable torso armor. Have you heard anything in regards to this? So I haven't heard anything specific, and there was nothing specific in the press release, but judging by the images that we have, there's nothing 100% clear, but it does look like if you to remove the head from the figure, then you would be able to lift that armor off. It would kind of make sense if they were to do that, because then that would allow them to put out the Cobb Vanth from the Book of Boba Fett, the sheriff version, if you like. That seems a natural thing for me to do. It does look like they may have compromised slightly on design to allow that to happen, but I'm hoping I will get this clarified in the near future if all things go to plan, and more on that to come. So fingers crossed on that, but I'll let you know on that in the future. Kenneth Johnson says, hi boss, question for next week. Do you think we'll get any updates about the current Ghost HasLab and maybe shipping dates? I feel like we've had maybe one or two since it was funded and nothing else. With the previous two, there were constant updates and images, and we've had none of that for the Ghost. Almost makes you think something is wrong. To be honest, I can't remember that far back in terms of the updates that we got for the previous HasLabs. I want to think with the Razor Crest it was a little bit different, because when we first saw it, it didn't have the paint applications and things like that. I think it would have been nice if they'd put out some press releases of the box from all angles. I know that they had that sort of makeshift box on a live stream, just showing you the size of it and things like that, but it would be nice if they could actually get the press images out and an update on the delivery date, just to give us a bit of an update, because it has been a while. But as far as I'm aware, it's still due for maybe October this year, hopefully. September, October was sort of the scheduled date, and until we hear otherwise, I think we can assume that's still the case. But, you know, like anything, we'll just have to wait and see. Nova Mura says, hey Tim, as far as I could see in the recent Hasbro San Diego Comic-Con live stream, there was no mention of the Cantina, and no additional Cantina characters or aliens were pipelined. Do you think Hasbro are enthusiastic about the Cantina, or will the relatively low amount of backers deter them from making as many new Cantina characters in 3.75? My dream would be additional Cantina aliens in the retro collection, but appreciate that could be a bit niche for those who didn't back the HasLab. Love the channel, Scott. I mean, first of all, it wouldn't surprise me if they did put out Cantina aliens in the retro collection to coincide with the vintage collection HasLab Cantina. It would not surprise me at all. But in terms of whether they are enthusiastic about it, I think they definitely are. I think they're still happy with the numbers. It is relatively low compared to other HasLabs, but I don't think it's extremely low. I think it had still a decent amount of backing. Of course, we didn't manage to hit that final tier and character, but still, I still think they were quite happy with it. And they did say before San Diego Comic-Con that there wouldn't be anything to do with the Cantina or aliens or anything like that return to Tatooine at San Diego Comic-Con, which I think was the right thing to do. It gives them a chance to announce other product from other media, such as The Mandalorian and The Acolyte and Ahsoka and things like that. You know, give everything a sort of level playing field. A lot of what is coming in 2025 will be around the Return to Tatooine campaign and the HasLab Cantina and things to go with it. So I don't think they're going to be deterred in terms of what they're releasing for that year. It would have already been in their plans anyway, because they work so far out. So you can expect plenty of things that are going to be in addition to the HasLab Cantina that are going to sort of go with it, basically, which is good. And whilst we're on the subject of the Cantina, I did manage to pick up Bossk on this awesome custom card. This was made by Tatooine Customs. I will leave a link to their Facebook page in the description below. The guy that makes them is called Lee, and he was selling this on his Facebook page, and I had to snap it up because when I looked at my figures that I have for the Cantina, I thought I had them all. I really did. Between me and my son, I thought we had them all, but I'm missing Bossk, not anymore because I have him there. And unfortunately, Lee, I do apologise, but I will be opening this one, but I'll be doing it very, very carefully to restore that awesome card back. And if Hasbro, if you're ever watching and you're going to do Bossk, this is the card back. That is just a classic image of Bossk right there. But I also need a couple of the others as well. I think I need Feltipern and the other trilogy collection one. Danik Jericho, I think his name is, the one with the curly things out of his face. I don't have those two figures either, so I'm going to have to hopefully hunt those down at some point. But I've checked off Bossk now. Awesome card back. Check out Tatooine Customs when you get a chance. Manuel Vicario says, hey, big question for next week. With the oversaturation of the newer 5 POA figures sitting in local Walmarts and Targets, most of them have never been purchased and having to be clearance down or sold at discount stores. Why is that Hasbro continues to waste their money trying to market to a younger generation that clearly doesn't care for action figures? Wouldn't it make sense to put that money towards TVC? Well, I would never be against more money for TVC, but the fact is those figures do not affect the budget for TVC. The things that affect the budget for TVC are the Black Series and the Retro Collection. If you are a staunch TVC collector, then those other two lines are more your enemy, if you like, than those child figures or figures for children. But having said that, you are quite right. They do seem to be, you know, ending up in clearance and peg warming and things like that. But I don't think Hasbro should ever be deterred from trying to get new fans in, because at the end of the day, if you're not going to get kids in when they're younger, then they don't turn into collectors later on, and then the line will completely die. What I feel really does need to happen is what I hope is going to happen, and is that the Mandalorian and Grogu film will be a huge hit, even bigger than the Mandalorian series, which, you know, crossed over into pop culture, and basically it just brings in so many fans back into Star Wars because they've got an actual film that everybody really enjoys. So fingers crossed for that. George Bilton says, could you give us a rundown of proof card backs, where they come from, what their purpose is, and are they a good investment? I keep seeing them and think, are they worth dabbling in? Many thanks, George. So yeah, of course, no problem. I have a few of them here to show you. Most of these, if not all of them, were given out by Hasbro at various conventions. I do apologise, I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly which convention each one were from, but they were from things like San Diego Comic Cons and things like that. And to my mind, there are 3 different types of proof cards that they've released, and then one single one by itself, and I'll just go through them with you now. So first of all, we have Revenge of the Jedi proof cards. So some of the figures that were included in the San Diego Comic Con Death Star Revenge of the Jedi set also had proof cards made. This is Luke Skywalker, as you can see. I also have the R2-D2 and a couple of the others as well. I'm not too sure if they did them all from that set, but they at least did some of them, and that's Luke, Revenge of the Jedi. They also did some of the Empire Strikes Back cards, so we've got Boba Fett there. You've got to be careful because the punches do fall out. I do have them all, but they just fall out. Also in that one, we've got Vader, and I've got Luke Skywalker. Again, there's a few others as well. And then they did the foil cards, so you can get proof cards of all the foil cards. I'm pretty sure you can get all of them. This one's Clone Commander Cody. You can definitely get General Grievous. I'm not too sure if you can get them all, but I think most of the foil cards you can also get a proof card for. The only other one that I know of, to my knowledge, is the proof card that came with the Jocasta Nu set, which my Jocasta Nu set is unopened, so I haven't been able to take that one out. But you get the figure and the card back, and also you get a proof card of the card as well. As whether they're worth an investment, some are worth more than others. You know, the Cody foil is worth more than this one, for example. It just depends on how common they are, and the foil ones, if they're graded, helps protect them because you can get finger marks all over those foil bits there, and they tend to damage quite easily. So if you can get one of those in high grade, then they tend to be worth a bit more money. Mando Brunt says, hi BB, ages since I asked a question, so question for next week. Loving the recent Night Trooper pack, which loads of us have already. Which potential one army builder pack out of these 3 would you take over the other 2? Pike Soldiers, Imperial Armored Commandos, or Imperial Praetorian Guards? So my answer may surprise a few people on this, because I think people would think that I would answer number 2, the Imperial Armored Commandos, but I'm going to go with the Pike Soldiers. And that's purely because I feel that the Pike Soldier is better served as an Army Builder 4-pack. I don't necessarily feel a Pike Soldier needs his own card back in the line, whereas I think an Imperial Armoured Commando would be great to have on a card back. It would be great to have out in stores, on the pegs, people army building that way. It'd be a massive seller for Hasbro, and I think they'd be silly not to do that. So, whereas the Pike Soldiers on card, I don't feel would have the same effect. So, out of those 3 for a 4-pack Army Builder, it would have to be the Pike Soldiers. Justin Riley says, question for next week. Of the new TVC reveals, revealed just a couple of days ago, which figure, creature, vehicle or playset are you most keen to get your hands on? Thanks for your consideration. Your efforts of what you do for the community are appreciated. I've got to say, buddy, out of everything that was revealed, the thing I'm most excited for and the thing I can't wait to get is the Blurg. That has been on my list of wants for so long now. It's well overdue, and can't wait. It looks fantastic. Preacher says, hey BB, question for next week. I just recently started building up a small TVC collection and looking at what's available. Would love to see more of the Clone Wars characters come to TVC. Darth Sidious with dual sabres, Mother Talzin with the Night Sisters, Savage Opress and Asajj Ventress. I'll even give Master Plo Koon and the Mortis Gods an honourable mention. Is there any characters during the Clone Wars that you would want to see released? I think two of the ones that you've mentioned in your question there are the two that I would most want, which is Savage Opress and Asajj Ventress, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they at least did Asajj Ventress at some point. Those are the two I most want, but there's loads of others because I love clone troopers, and there's still lots of named clones that I would like them to do from the Clone Wars, plus loads of other characters as well. And dare I say it, you know, Ponkrell, not my favourite alien in the Star Wars universe, but, you know, to complete some scenes, I would still want that character. Dean SWTVC 3.75 Modern says, hi Bossk, I hope you had a great holiday. Question for next week. With the trailers from D23, what is on your most wanted list for TVC? Mine are a new Snowtrooper we could get on both ESB and Mando cards. The new show looks great. Cheers. It really, really does. The new Mando and Grogu film trailer leaks, if you like, looked absolutely fantastic, as did the Andor Season 2. Really, really good. Can't wait for both of those. And there was a number of things that I would love to see in TVC. For one, the Snowtrooper, as you said, or the Hoth Stormtrooper. We really do need an updated version of him, and they could get so much mileage out of a new one of those. As you said, they could get an original 96 card out there, they could get a Mando card, they could make a deluxe set with the E-Web cannon. There's loads of things that they could do with that. Maybe retool it slightly to do a Galactic Marine. We also saw Mando riding a AT-RT, which I thought was just amazing. I was loving that bit, and I thought instantly, come on Hasbro, it can't be too hard to give us an all-new AT-RT for the Mandalorian in the Vintage Collection. That would be a great small vehicle to have. We also saw the AT-ATs as well, the original AT-ATs, and I've mentioned this before, I'd see no reason why they could not re-release the Legacy AT-AT or the Vintage Collection version from The Empire Strikes Back out there. They've done it with the Millennium Falcon. I still think it's a good enough vehicle. It's got lights and sounds. You know, of course, perhaps maybe in some amazing HasLab fantasy land, I would like them to do a bigger scaled one. But honestly, in terms of 3.75 inch action figures, I think that AT-AT and Millennium Falcon are pretty decent. And that just blew me away seeing that. Andor Season 2, we got to see Saw Gerrera once again. We saw Two Tubes once again. So those, again, for me, are figures that just need to be made. Saw Gerrera's been in so much entertainment. He is massively missed from the Vintage Collection. So there's just a few things. The D23 stuff got me really excited once again for Star Wars, I've got to say. Some really good stuff on the horizon. And on that point, Reckless Deck says, question for next week, if you're in favour of a retool re-release of the AT-AT as someone who owns either the Legacy or the Smuggler's Run Falcon, do you think there's anything they can do to update it and make it even more amazing as a potential future HasLab, or are those current versions as definitive as it possibly could get? So the Falcon, yeah, I just think it's big enough, man. I think any bigger than that, it's just too big for people's collections. It is a mammoth of a vehicle, and I think it's got loads of detail on that. I don't think you can really get better than that, really. Especially with all the other things that we want in the line. I think it would be a bit of a waste to, you know, spend tooling budget on redoing something like the big Millennium Falcon or the AT-AT for that matter. I think those are good enough. Just get the AT-AT back out there, basically. Rolltide 5059 says, question for next week, maybe it's just me, but it seems like reissues are dying down a bit, which is a bummer when I still need figures like Dengar, Lumat, Magna Guards, Kit Fisto, and a number of other prequel figures to get reissued. It even feels like a wasted opportunity to not release some of those prequel figures on the anniversary. Do you think 1.0 figures will still be made available in the future, or should I start biting the bullet on eBay? Thanks. I've got to say that I feel that Hasbro are a little bit paranoid about what constitutes a modern updated figure these days and what's good enough to reissue. When I look at something like Dengar, it looks like an absolutely fantastic figure and it, you know, looks the part, but in terms of modern day articulation, it is found wanting. He only has swivel hips, for example. You know, we're talking about amazing figures like this Stormtrooper not being adequate because we want them to have barbell hips, because we're used to all of these fantastic figures like Kanan and Zeb coming out at such high quality. So Hasbro, when they're looking at reissues, they're thinking, you know, how are the community going to react to this? Because they have released figures in the past where, you know, they have really got slammed for it. When I look at figures like Princess Leia from Endor, and rightly so. It's a poor figure, it's an old sculpt. So I feel the reason those reissues are dying down a little bit is because, you know, they are scared of the backlash that they will get if they do that. So they need to pick and choose wisely. When I look at TVC 1.0, I'm not 100% sure how many figures in that line are good enough these days. When you're talking about your Jabba's goons like Weequay and Nikto and things like that, Reise, at the end of the day, I thought they were okay for a reissue. I wouldn't really want budget spent on redoing those figures when there's so many others that they need to get to, if you kind of get my meaning. But that doesn't mean to say that they don't need doing. I just think we have to sort of choose our battles a bit more. Shannon Patrat says, great show, boss. Question for next week. Do you remember the accessory packs from way back during the Phantom Menace figure line? What are your thoughts on a TVC version of those? I don't know how viable an idea it would be for Hasbro at the moment, but I think a line of accessory packs that accompany their Army Builder 4 packs would be a fun idea and a cool way to change up the accessories of the figures in our displays. Just a fun thought. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I do remember those, and I would find it weird if TVC had like a TVC card back with just a bunch of accessories on there. That would be a little bit weird. And also, you've got to sort of decide what those accessories are. What exactly do I need for my figures that I haven't already got? And spread those across multiple different figures in one pack. It seems a bit odd, but what you're talking about there, about a 4-pack, I just think maybe the 4-packs just need to come with more stuff in them, or the deluxe figures that are true deluxe, you know, like the E-Web cannon and the Ahsoka they did with all those extra little bits. I feel there is room for that sort of thing. I just feel that they need to put more into those. John Miko wrote an amazing article on the Bantha Skull website the other day, and he was talking about the Ewok pack with the drum kit and stuff, and I just thought that was brilliant. And that's the sort of thing that I would want to world build. Things that you actually see in the movie with those like helmets for drums that he was using. Just awesome. So that's the sort of thing that I would like in an accessory pack, not just a bunch of weapons and things like that. James Birch says, thanks for all you do. Question for next week. Have you ever considered doing a worst to best use of soft goods video? I can think of good examples of both. To be honest, it's not something that I'd ever thought of doing, but I think it's a good idea, and I will definitely put it on my list of content that I want to create in the next few weeks. So appreciate the idea, James. Thank you so much. Jeff Russell says, hey Tim, question for next week. What is the best way to let Hasbro know what vehicles we are interested in as a community? I know various polls have been done asking for the lists in the past, but it seems like Hasbro is looking for a more concerted effort from the community to give them serious input. Just not sure what the best way may be for that, but something similar to March Madness or Last Figure Standing may be beneficial for us as fans in the long run. Any thoughts? So yeah, absolutely, Jeff, myself, Chris and John, my fellow Last Figure Standing buddies, we've definitely talked about this and talked about doing this, and it's just a matter of sort of working out how we do that, because I'm sure you know there's lots of different sizes of vehicles for a start, and the variations in price tag would be pretty vast in my opinion. You know, there's some small vehicles that everybody wants, and then there's some very large vehicles that everybody wants. There's some vehicles out there which just probably would never be able to be made. I'm thinking about, you know, like Home 1, for example. So it's very difficult to sort of do that in terms of, you know, having a poll, because the winner might be something that could just never be made. It'd just be impossible, for example, you know, just purely because everybody wants that thing. But I'm sure there must be a way of doing it. You know, for example, we could maybe put it into sections of small, medium, large vehicles. But then where does, say, Luton's ship, for example, fall in that? Is that a medium vehicle? Is it a large vehicle? It's quite difficult to sort of tie that down. I will definitely have a conversation with them again, Chris and John, to see what we can do, because vehicles are important to the line, and I know that Hasbro, talking to some of my Patreon and channel members that attended SDCC, and we're talking to the Hasbro employees out there, you know, they do want to know this stuff, basically. So we'll have a chat about it and see what we can come up with. GA says, hi BB, question for next week. I keep hearing it said that Hammerhead is tall and that his TVC release in 2025 will be a deluxe figure. I really don't see why this has to be the case. In 2018, Yakface, a tall figure, was released in TVC, and Hasbro chose to move his name pill to the right in order to accommodate the taller figure. This approach was deemed unnecessary for the even taller Chewbacca figure in TVC. We need Hammerhead released on his original cardback. Am I missing something? Thanks as always, my man. So I don't think you're missing anything. I think deluxe figures, as we've seen now with Cobb Vanth, will be on larger cardbacks. Hopefully with Hammerhead's case, just a larger bubble on the normal 6x9 card back. But when we talk about Deluxe, it just means that they can charge more for it. And we've seen with the Black Series version, it doesn't really come with that many accessories. It's just a big figure. And it just seems that these days for big figures like Zeb, we need to sort of pony up for them basically, which is a bit of a shame, but that's just how TVC is at the moment, and the Black Series as well. You know, it's not just TVC where they're doing this. It obviously seems that making action figures to that standard and that size costs more money these days, and they're having to recoup it by doing that. What I would say is that figures like Jango Fett, which mostly is a retool and very little paint applications, should no way be Deluxe. That should be on a card, normal, and they shouldn't be allowed to get away with that. However, bigger figures like Zeb, like Hammerhead, then perhaps they warrant a slightly higher price tag, but you know, certainly not £25 basically. But we'll have to wait and see what they do with it anyway. Noctilia2290 says, hey Bossk, love the show. Unlike the Black Series, TVC doesn't have much comic book representation. If TVC did more comic book characters, how would you like Hasbro to handle the card backs? Would you prefer a live action artist's impression, or would you be okay with art directly from the comic book itself? Thank you, keep up the good work. So me personally, when it comes to comic book characters, I prefer it when they make them look realistic, both as figure and card back, a bit like what they've done with Dr. Aphra really. I hope they don't stray away from something like that. William Rodriguez says, hi BB, great show as always. Question for next week, what do you think the priority for figure releases are? We need Cantina patrons, but now I want the Stranger, Plagueis, Dark Osha and more Jedi. Kelnaka, Jeki, Yord. I think Hasbro has a lot of difficult decisions to make. How many figures can they release a year? Thanks. Well, this is the biggest problem that we have in TVC at the moment. The budget is quite low for newly tooled figures, especially. We get about 12, 13, maybe 14 at a push per year. And with all of the new content that's coming out from Disney, it's very, very difficult for Hasbro to keep up, because most figures from new media need all new tooling, which means other areas of the line suffers, particularly with the prequel trilogy. If you look at things, you know, since TVC has come back, we've had very, very little from the prequel trilogy, and I think that's the biggest thing to suffer from the glut of new media that we've had. You've said there that you want the Stranger, Plagueis, Dark Osha, and a lot of those I don't particularly want, but I know other people do. We are getting 2 more Jedi. They were pipelined for the Acolytes, so there's a couple there that you can tick off. The Stranger would probably be the one that I want the most from that show, but apart from that, there's so much for them to do. You know, we've got countless figures from the Ahsoka show and Obi-Wan and all these other things that they've put out which still need figures made, and it's just impossible for them to keep up. So they just have to spread it out a little bit and keep everybody happy, which ultimately sometimes keeps nobody happy, but that's just the way it is. Which brings me on to the final question from Darth Burke, and he is basically asking, where is the Bad Batch? And the reason we don't have the Bad Batch right now is for the reasons that I've just mentioned previously. At the end of the day, we only have Hunter. I've mentioned this so many times on these videos. We only have Hunter, but if you think about it, if they were to do all of the Bad Batch in 1 year, that would take up nearly 50% of the new tooling budget for that year, so they're just never going to do it. And I know the Black Series get them all in one go, and we keep sort of bringing this to Hasbro's attention, but until the Vintage Collection makes as much money as the Black Series, then unfortunately that's not going to change. So we just need to keep supporting the line, buying what they put out. If you like it, of course, you don't have to buy everything. Buy what you like, and hopefully that'll be enough to improve the line. Alright then guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget, if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comments section of this video, and let's keep this series going. I really do hope you've enjoyed this video, considering I have missed 2 weeks. I hope you've missed the series, and I hope you are glad that it's back. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members, as always, for supporting my videos and my content and me directly. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.